Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
So, guys, we are going to share some information that we got in a focus session. It was more of a remote viewing than a channeling, as well as just some other stuff that I've given out in dribs and drabs, and Cindy's given out in dribs and drabs, putting it together into one session that really this could be 8 hours long, but we won't do it. We're in 8 hours. No, we're going to try to cram this in, focus this tightly so the picture becomes clearer for maybe those that are just not aware of the real situation on planet Earth and also on planet Mars.
Mm-hmm. It was a nice focus session, and what was really fun about it is Mike has his very large crystal we call Andromeda that we got from Mama Jan, and I have Sirius, and we both used our crystals to help amplify this information that we're getting from the cosmos, because as we know, crystals are amplifiers. They hold all the energy, and they hold all the information. So this is helping to amplify this focused session. So I hope this helps bring understanding to some people.
Yeah, and I want to also point out that we're not the only ones talking about this, because there are many people that are really mostly or almost completely on board with the mindset that we have with the information we've gotten from the guides, as well as years of research, and then seeing what resonates as true. And again, the guides, they have to be careful because they don't want to interfere with our human experience. But if we guess correctly, they will verify often the things that we are feeling. And we are, as individuals, allowed to contact our higher selves and maintain that connection to the higher self, because you could view your higher self as the person that is literally holding the joystick playing the game. And I think that's perhaps the most simple analogy we can give. It's more than that. It's definitely more than that, but just to get that picture across. So here you see, this is from today. Elon Musk Mars fixation leads to push for more rocket launches into Texas, according to the FAA. SpaceX wants to launch its Starship rockets up to 25 times a year from its starbase in Brownsville, Texas. Yes, Elon has a Mars fixation. It's interesting to see that there's always, whenever we do an Elon video, there's always people that say, I don't think Elon's from here.
No, you're right. You're guessing correct. He's a little bit different, and he's here on a different mission. I think a lot of the information that we got in this session, it's of a higher consciousness. So some people may get it, some people might not, but it's definitely information that I think will be helpful for the collective.
Yes, absolutely. There's so much out there that people are piecing together. And you see Wikipedia has its own Nibiru cataclysm. Nibiru or Planet X. Isn't that interesting? Nibiru or Planet X. Well, Space X. And of course, you had Sitchin with his Planet of the Crossing. Cross, tilted on its side, is an X. And SpaceX, and then Twitter renamed X. Nibiru X, XXX. It's all right there in front of us. Oh, yes. And a lot of it is catastrophobia, so to speak. It's our fear of these big catastrophes, because in our DNA memory banks, we remember the last time this happened, and it wasn't pretty. It's what gave us the Younger Dryas cataclysm, which really was not natural. The Younger Dryas cataclysm, from what we've gotten, and also you can look closely at other sources. If you look to the war, the battle between Tiamat and Marduk, that was a war. And that is representative of the bigger battle which is going on between humans of all types and other free beings and the draconian alliance, the draconian dark forces.
Just when we're talking about this stuff, I still get trickled in information, and I thought it was curious. And I want, what was given to me was, for example, the Grand Canyon and this planet at one point, beings did thrive on building beautiful monuments, and we have seen some of the stone work that's been done, just etched out of stone. How does that happen? Well, they're showing me that this technology, this Earth, this huge cataclysm, this thing that happened on Earth at one point, there was more of a stone relic or a stone castle in where that happened. So when we
the Grand Canyon area?
Yes, in the Grand Canyon area, there was more stone buildings. It was a very, very magical, mystical place, and if you've ever been there, you can still feel it. It's still really beautiful. So that just popped up.
So what you're saying is it was destroyed intentionally.
Yeah, it was destroyed intentionally, just like so many other places that had either crystal realms or stone buildings. I mean, a lot of this beautiful artwork that some of these high vibrational beings built was really destroyed. So a lot of what you're looking at is destruction, unfortunately.
In Arkansas, in the Wichita area, there was a crystal palace of sorts that existed, and it was destroyed. It was also a healing center. It was also kind of like a temple. And interestingly enough, Arkansas in that particular area has the first or second largest concentration of quartz crystals on the whole planet, where this was destroyed. And, again, this is part of the bigger war.
It is. It is part of the bigger war, and it's part of our history being very much covered up, and the science coming in to say, oh, no, this is what happened. And I think we need to really start stripping the science down to what it really is, and all the science is funded.
Yeah. So what you have to realize is we are living on a planet that has been occupied by the enemy. It's controlled by the enemy, per se. The ones that did the destruction, they are ruling this planet remotely using human puppets. This is really the reality. When you look at the book of Malachi, it says, I'm going to send you the prophet Elijah before the very terrifying day of Yahweh comes, the return of Yahweh. Again, when you look to the Bible, there, in the more modern translations, and by that I mean going back to even King James period, everything is put down as God or Lord, day of the Lord, but it is an assortment of different words that were used in the Old Testament Hebrew that have been purposely whitewashed and mistranslated. And so that the majority of people don't have a clue what they're really worshiping. They don't. They're actually worshiping the system in many cases, if they are truly believing that the controllers of the Old Testament are their quote-unquote God. Then you're giving power to the ones that are persecuting us. Absolutely. When you look, you might wonder, why are these things so dark and horrible? My mom always used to bring that up. She'd be like, I just want to read the Gospel of John because that doesn't make me feel bad. I don't like looking at the Old Testament at all. I don't like that God. She would even say that. I don't like that God. And it would never really click in her head, doesn't this cause a conflict? And, there is a whole, let's just say, indoctrination program. They teach theology, and really what it is trying to get you to be able to answer these things in an acceptable way where you can still keep the masses brainwashed, is the bottom line. So Isaiah 24, so it will happen in that day that the Lord will punish the host of heaven on high and the kings of the earth on earth. They will be gathered together like prisoners in the dungeon, and they will be confined in prison, and after many days they will be punished. Zephaniah Near is the great day of the Lord. Again, if we translate that into the names of God, the Hebrew names of God, it's going to be very different. It'll give you more specifics. Near and coming very quickly. Well, this is 4,000 years ago, supposedly, 3,000 years ago. Listen, the day of the Lord. In it, the warrior cries out bitterly. A day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of destruction and desolation, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet and battle cry against the fortified cities and the high corner towers. It goes on and on. There's like 29 verses here. It's not good. It's just warfare, death, disease, it's plague, it's famine, it's weather control, it's everything we see today. It's exactly what we see today.
And it is not the creator of the universe.
And when you look to one of the terms used, it needs to be charged. When you look to one of the terms used for quote-unquote God of the Old Testament is the Lord of hosts. Hosts is war. It's army. It's military. By the way, we want to thank everybody that is supporting us on Patreon. Thank you, Wayne. Wayne is our newest Patreon. And before we go any deeper, I wanted to just again say, if you haven't subscribed to Fifth Kind, Paul Wallace does a really good job. He has a lot of different people on his channel. Mauro Bellino, he is a translator for the Vatican. He was a translator for the Vatican. This is what he did. And so, he noticed that these translations are not saying this is the creator of the universe. This is an extraterrestrial takeover. You see, you had Billy Carson there. Good questions. Did Jesus worship Yahweh? Well, absolutely not is the answer. The real Yeshua, no. That because Yahweh is, in fact, what you see here is Satan, is so to speak, as is the rest of these draconian, fallen Anunnaki beings. And so, Fifth Kind TV, lots of good stuff there. Also, the Paul Wallace channel. And you guys remember Spirit Verse here, 1.41 million subscribers. They did this 12 years ago, where they put it out and said, our problem is because Mars had a cataclysm. The Martians came here. They got into conflict in Atlantis, and it ended up being just a big mess. Interesting, is it not? Spirit science, it was out for a long time. And while we didn't agree completely with all the takes, and, again, you're not going to agree completely with everybody out there, they were on the right track, I thought. And, absolutely, this is a Martian issue. But the reality is the control system in place today is a Martian control system. And, these guys... These guys are just fun. Still processing the rapture, remote viewing the rapture. What is this? What is the rapture? For those that will be caught up in the air, to meet that Lord of hosts, that Lord of armies. That's an ET invasion, is really what it translates to. It's an extraterrestrial invasion. Now, we were invaded thousands of years ago. We've been conquered by these people. The truth about the return of Jesus will terrify you. Yes. This is not because, Yeshua is not coming back in the physical sense. But yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on here. There is the abduction phenomenon, which hasn't stopped. And so I think it's natural for people to say, is the rapture a mass abduction event? Well, maybe it's a voluntary mass abduction event.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's the information that we're hoping to bring understanding to today. And, I'll talk a little bit more about it after this session, after we play this session for you guys to bring a little more understanding, because I was listening to it and some things came to my mind. It's like, oh, I don't know if I got that across enough. But, it's not all bad news, guys. It's not all bad news. It's a matter of perception, perspective. And where are we coming from when we see these things happen? Are we coming from a place of doom and gloom, or are we coming from a place of love and light? And I don't want to be overly foo-foo, because there are things in this world that are downright evil and are not nice. But when we're working with the light, we are working with Creator. It's ultimately all anchored in love.
It is. And I'm trying to remember who it was. It was one of our regulars was saying love is the answer. I know Karen had brought it up, and Ginger, yeah, she always is bringing up great things too. So many of you guys have done just a wonderful job at just supporting this family as we go, because we have to know the harsh, naked truth, so to speak. And here you have a quote from Elon. I would like to die on Mars, just not on impact. Elon's entire purpose is to get volunteers to go to Mars. SpaceX will colonize Mars, recolonize. So what we have going on here, it's huge. It's huge. It's mind-blowingly huge. And everything is right there in front of us when you look to Revelation 21. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Wow, no more sea. What does that mean? Woe to you that desire the day of the Lord. What end is it for you? The day of the Lord is darkness and not light. It's right in front of us. It's right in front of us. This is not a good thing. Again, we've shown the cube, which is like the Kaaba in Mecca too, that shape, that cube shape. It is so big, it would be a mothership that would really, literally encompass the entire Middle East. When you say there's no sea, no more sea, is there an ocean on Mars anymore? The answer is no. There's not an ocean on Mars. And God is going to dwell with those that came to do what? To serve them. To serve them. Remember that? To serve man? Don't get on the first ships. Everything is right there. No, because what are they going to do? They are all about repopulating Mars. And so at this point, let us start to play this. This segment's about 15 minutes. This is what some of the info that we got.
Okay, please do.
Okay. So in regards to your question, why don't you state your question that you wanted me to focus on?
So the question was, when we look to what is the purpose of, say, Elon Musk wanting to bring humans to Mars, the whole concept of salvation and humans being saved in the Bible, the rapture, and the fact that we have the cell cities, smart cities that will be developed in these timelines. Is this basically a knowing that there has to be an evacuation plan from Earth of the control system, because the control system will no longer be able to be allowed to stay on Earth past a certain point in time?
Okay, the information that I got so far is big, so it's going to come in segments. What I'm getting now is Venus, Mercury, Mars, Earth, all have a relationship with one another. Their purpose is to secure life and have ongoing life. The ongoing life on their planets brings them life. It appears to me that Venus, Mercury, Earth are assisting Mars and bringing life back to Mars after these entities used their weaponry to destroy Mars. This is a planetary plan, and I don't see where humans are really able to grasp it, because it's not human understanding. This is more about life. So then we get into, have the Martians learned their lesson? Are they going to go back and be of service to Mars and help Mars rebuild? Or are they going to go back and pick up where they left off? The planets are going to continue to help each other. The planets are going to continue to talk to the inhabitants and one another and try to continue life. If life is discontinued on a planet, that planet dies. And it leaves to another realm. And just like we would be missing that person in our life that dies, the planets would be missing that. So they do work together. But this is on a level that most people won't understand. And this is part 1.
Yeah, as we were talking about with the Yugas and the planetary positions in different Yugas, the planetary positions change. And, throughout my years of research, this explains a lot, because, the solar system is not a constant. For one, there's many more planets than what we're told. Also, the sky we see is a hologram. It's a projection by the system. So we're purposefully not seeing planets that are there and other stellar bodies as well that are not there, but are not visible to us, in order to keep them from triggering our consciousness and our human consciousness expansion. Again, we are humans in this incarnation. We're not always necessarily humans.
No, we're not necessarily humans, but we do represent life on planets. And it's like we are a type of a collective that shares experiences, shares with one another, and sometimes not always on the same planet, but the planets are on a very similar level where they understand life, they understand how important it is to preserve life. And right now, Mars is in a situation where it needs to be repaired, and it does need the life to come back to Mars. Hopefully the beings that are going to be harvested, which I wouldn't want to be in that position, hopefully they are going to go back and do better, and they're not going to go back to finish destroying Mars. So this is the planets working together with consciousness to bring about healing.
Is there also at the same time a different plan that's in place from the Draconian Empire to utilize the humans still as an energy resource? I would venture to guess the answer is yes.
There's always that plan for the entities and energies of what we would call a lower vibration to come in and scoop up energy for themselves. So it is up to the individual. It's like, which side do you want to feed? Who do you want to be? What did your higher self decide to do? And we can only know that when we are in our best place, when we are connecting with higher self on a regular basis. And this is what we would call a spiritual practice. And the planets are understanding of that too. The planets are very high vibrational beings. They're always, if we connect to the planets, we are connecting to our highest vibration possible. We are respecting life to the highest degree possible, and we are wanting life to flourish. When it comes to the dark side or the lower vibrations, they are wanting to harness life for themselves. They are wanting to use life to feed their own energy. So hopefully people can see that difference.
So it's been known by the controllers for a very, very long time that at some point in time there is going to be a human population that goes to Mars willfully to, I would venture to guess, kind of continue the type of life that we have here at this point in time, initially anyway. At least initially, as you know, the plan is to shift up into the higher frequencies, and the planets will do their cosmic dance and move positions as we travel through the Yugas. Again, it's fascinating to note, why can't we date things properly? It's because time is relative. It's not a constant. It's relative, and its relationship to consciousness changes drastically through different yugas.
With this information coming from the harvest, information coming from beings that are planning on going to Mars, this is what they chose. It's more about them stepping on a platform to become better, because these are very dark beings. And anyone who is following them, anyone who chooses to go, hopefully they're going to go to better themselves and expand themselves. So this is really more about the planets working together, working with consciousness, working with the collective to help each other, to help heal Mars. So this is our hope. And as we do move through the Yugas, we will be changing positions, and things will definitely be changing. So the expected outcome is yes, these beings are, as a collective, going to be going to Mars. Will we see this in this lifetime? I don't know. It is a long-term project. It's not something that can just be done at the snap of a finger. There's still, what I'm picking up is there's still things being done on Mars to sustain life. So this could take some years. It's not like people can go there right now and without proper equipment functions. You can't just survive. So it feels like there's very small beginnings of little places to live on Mars or in Mars, but it's not ready for any mass population right now.
But to clarify, there are beings under the surface, living in underground cities. And, you know, please describe whatever info you can get on those underground cities. What are the predominant makeup of the beings? What species do you see? And just how big are they?
Oh, you know, it comes to my mind is both humanoid and reptilian, both entities coexisting, but very large. They are very large. They're larger than what we see humans. However, I guess this might be my own judgment, but their consciousness is a little lower. They're not about expansion. They're more about controlling their environment, but they've been conditioned to that. They have to control their environment. Underneath Mars, I see them in tubes. I see them trying to grow and sustain life, preparing for more. So the beings that are on Mars now understand that there's going to be more coming, and one of their jobs is to prepare for that coming, prepare for others to come. They are way more aware of what's going on Earth than what we are aware of going on Mars. It's like the information is kind of a one-way street.
And then as far as the size of the cities underground, how many people do you think there are? How many beings, I should say? Are we talking just thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, or more?
This is a very small operation. It's seed size. So think of a mustard seed. They plan on it being bigger, but right now they're working on their main concern is how to sustain more life. So I would venture to say all over Mars, probably in the thousands.
Okay, so ultimately, the plan to bring people to Mars, again, because I know I could hear people asking this question, is it draconian or is it more of a benevolent plan? Is it that the benevolent side understands the draconian intent, but at the same time, it's like bringing in probiotics into the body after antibiotics have wiped out all the bacteria and all the beneficial as well as not beneficial bacteria in the body. It's bringing new bacteria into the body because, again, if we didn't have any of the bacteria living in our bodies, we wouldn't be alive.
On a very high level, the plan is to bring life to Mars. So it does appear to be like a draconian, reptilian type of arrangement. However, it looks like the long term is like what you said. Let's bring in the probiotics and let's bring them in however we can. And this is the plan between the planets. This isn't necessarily a consciousness that's in individual beings. It's more of a compelling. So just like we go through life and sometimes we feel compelled to do something, that's coming from a higher power. That's coming from a higher source. So these beings feel compelled. Ultimately, what they will be doing is going to be healing Mars with the vibration changing with Mars going up in vibration. It's going to go up. That means that the beings are going to ultimately be healing. But do they know that now? No, they're probably following their dark, sinister path, and what they think is going to bring them control is not. Their Mars is going to change. It's almost like these beings are going to get there and they're going to feel compelled to bring about healing. So, take that for what you will. It's not a human understanding.
So ultimately, again, when the Bible is referencing being saved in a new heaven and a new earth, it literally is talking about bringing people to Mars. And it is, utilizing the mothership that we see described as New Jerusalem, which is a cube shape, which coincidentally coincides with the Borg shape of this ship from Star Trek, because again, you can't make this stuff up. It's all there, and it resonates in our minds because there is the reality of our galactic history that's there. And ultimately, even with the Draconian Wars, the Draco and Lyran Wars, and all this that has transpired, in which humanity is on a path of ascension yet again. Even the Draco don't realize that as they're serving their self-centered ends, sometimes they're also unintentionally serving the purposes of the light, because they can't kind of help it. They're very predictable. Let's just say they're very predictable, and they really can't see the bigger picture.
No, so ultimately what they thought they did to come here and wipe out the populations of Earth and meld with them and make their own population and bring it back to Mars, what they have done, thinking that they took control, is they are bringing seeds of healing to Mars. So it's just unbeknownst to them. So they are planting seeds of healing because they melded with the inhabitants of Earth, and so many of us are healers. So they take that DNA to Mars and it plants in Mars, and Mars is able to heal.
Well, I guess we can leave this one at this point. This is a lot of info to go over, and we'll see what we continue to get from the guides as we go deeper into the hidden history. As always, guys, thanks for being part of the family.
So that was the end of the recording. Yeah, very, very interesting. I never saw that coming. As far as, this being used for good, but it would make sense. I guess personally I was fixated on all the details of this interim point in time So, again, when you look to it, it's all right there for us. It really literally is all right there for us. Here you go. Elon is offering SpaceX employees his own sperm to seed Mars colony. When you think about all the legends of those Greek Anunnaki gods, they seem to be kind of horn dogs. They were always out there creating hybrids, offspring, and so here you go. Elon, father of 12, wants to spread his seed farther. Yeah, because they want to create their own population. They want to repopulate Mars after Mars literally invaded Earth, with the system invading Earth thousands of years ago. This is all part of a much, much bigger plan. And so it now it's hitting me right now. It's like that, what was that Arnold movie? Total Recall. You remember that? And then what happens is something goes out of control, and Mars ends up having a new atmosphere and is healed. Wow. Again, it's all right kind of there. When you look at the term Lamb of God on the cross, it's all spelled so clearly out there. Lamb. Well, Mars, Aries, Mars, Ram. A ram is, a male lamb. And when we think of Mars and Aries, as far as the sign, Mars is the god of war. There's a reason, because, the Martian system is the system that came here. A ram is a male sheep. Yeah, you can't make it up. And then when we see the symbol, you see the little horns. Well, how about Moses? He had horns, didn't he? He sure did. He had horns. Multiple depictions of Moses with horns. This is saying that Moses is part of the Martian control group that came over. So if you ever wondered why, and we see also these depictions of goat-like beings and Baphomet and stuff, again, this is all part of the system. It's part of the system. This is why I've always said the Abrahamic system is brought to us via Mars. This is their system. When you look again, the Lord of Hosts is the God of war. It's so clear. Yahweh, right? Lord of Armies. It's a military takeover. This happened thousands of years ago. It was the Younger Dryas event.
I guess what I do is I look to the planets. I connect with the planets, and I try to see, okay, what are they doing? And we look at Mars is in a really horrible predicament, and Earth, she says, bring me your broken, bring me who you have, let's see what we can do. And it looks like a takeover. Earth is saying, here, she is the mother energy, she is the nourishment, she is the healer. And Mars melds with Earth, sends back that consciousness, and that consciousness now has healing abilities in it. And do those other beings know this whole plan? I don't think they do. They're just following their instincts. They're following what the planets had discussed to assist Mars, because the planets are close. They are beings. They do speak. Now, does that mean that we're not going to see anything really scary? We're going to see scary stuff. It's very real. I don't want to take any of the realness away from it. We should definitely prepare for uptick and upsets, because that's the nature of the beings that came from Mars. All they have in them is conquer and destroy. That's their that's what they want to do. That's what they are compelled to do. And Earth is bringing life. Earth is the nurturer. Earth is the mother. So we have those two melded now. But I hope this brings understanding. The other thing that I wanted to mention is salvation. Salvation, because I didn't hear myself bring that into the mix, salvation is a man-made concept, and it's to bring control to the masses. So one thing humans want to do is they want to be some part of something bigger than themselves. It's what we are compelled to do. It's what we do. So if the controllers create the salvation, hey, be part of this, and you are being part of that, you're supporting the all the glory, then they follow that because they want to do something good, not knowing that they're in something bad. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, that's a Martian belief system that has become the dominant belief system on the planet. And again, it comes out of that root. And when you look again to, really, when you look to Judaism, you'll see that it was never about afterlife. It's about here and now. And it's just about remembering where you come from. And ultimately, that remembering where you come from is not necessarily this planet, but you come from a different planet, from a different tradition. And again, that doesn't mean any one group of people are bad. We're all mutts now. We're all mixed breeds. We're so intermingled with so much DNA, yet what happened to those that held on to the indigenous traditions that were here on this planet? Those are the ones that were hunted down systematically and wiped out. And this is what we saw. When you see that European colonization of the Americas, and 100 million plus, or it might have been 10 times that, or more, people were wiped out and then assimilated into the Abrahamic tradition. That's the Martian invasion, making sure it's wiping out the vestiges of all those that still remembered the true ancient ways. And we were talking about this yesterday too. When you look to the pagan belief systems per se, now not all these pagan gods, quote unquote, again, that term is a term that should be really wiped out because it just doesn't describe things specific enough. Some of these beings are natural beings that were in agreement, in harmony, living in a very, very symbiotic way with Earth before the invasion. And then they were replaced by new deities, even assuming names and titles of the old. And this is exactly what you can see. You have the Elohist tradition and you have the Yahwist tradition. When we look at the energy of El is very different energy than Yah. Yah is very dark. Yah is warlike. Yah is absolutely the draconian Anunnakian system that came via Mars, really from Nibiru, which had gone through the whole thing before Mars did. Nibiru was another planet that was a refugee planet that was taken over by the system. So this is what we have here. So the persecution of all the indigenous people, from the Australian Aborigines to people of an Aboriginal nature in Africa, Asia, and the Americas, all over. It's a takeover by ultimately the warlike system that is part of the draconian empire. And so what's happening is ultimately it's going to backfire on them. This may be generations, though. This is the thing. It's a long haul. Here we are. We have people that say, you're going to see, such cataclysm in your lifetime, that pole shift, crustal displacement thing. When we remote view going forward, we don't see evidence of that. We really, really don't. Is there a long period ahead of us of transition? I do think so. The guide said 11 to 15 years of basically the death of the system on planet Earth. And then what we had come from the kids from the future was that the system was relegated to the smart cities. And really, the only people in the system are in these smart cities, which is going to be the vast minority of the space on the planet. Most of the people, as far as the spaces on the planet, are going to be outside. I mean, most of the Earth is going to be kind of free of this system, but you'll still have vestiges, those that are in the smart cities. And the kids from the future had said that while people that were living free on Earth outside of the smart cities were living much longer, much healthier lives, had all sorts of psychic abilities, the ability to go ahead and take your consciousness and leave the planet with your consciousness, just basically going into a meditative state at will. You know, the type of things that you only see very advanced yogis doing in this particular era will be available for those that stay free and clear of the system. This is why they're striving to alter your genes so desperately. They don't want you to soar and be free. They want you to be tied to the system ultimately, so they can use you as a source of energy and labor here in the smart cities on Earth until they can move people off till they can't tolerate the frequency anymore on Earth as Earth ascends, and then they're banking on the fact that they can get enough humans over to Mars to work Mars and to continue to be a source of energy and labor for them. So maybe they take them, off planet from Mars or move them elsewhere. Again, there's a very large intergalactic slave trade. But what is going on is the planets themselves have their own plan, which is in alignment with the real source and the creator of this universe and the mother of which this universe is made out of, to restore harmony even to Mars. But that, of course, may take many, many, many lifetimes and ages, in fact. But the beginning, the seeds of that are being planned, and even though it's a dark draconian plan, it will ultimately backfire on them. But still, I would not get on Elon's ships.
No. Do what you feel compelled to do. This is our only job. And I love how Mike articulates these things, because I get the information, but I don't have the articulation. But we're paired up for a very good reason. But follow your heart. Follow your heart. That's what we're here to do. We're here to have our own experience. And Source and the planets, they are in closer alignment with one another than we can really perceive and understand. And that's okay. That's okay. Not everyone has to be way up there on this other vibration where they understand and see different things. No, that's not the point of life. Source wants us to live our own life. So follow your heart. Do the next right thing. Do your best. Be your best. That's your job.
As always, guys, look forward to your comments. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.